So how would you describe Swaarm?
You can be a web marketer, you can be an e-commerce platform, you can be an agency, you can be anyone in the chain and still have a use case that Swarm will fit. So what we did is we integrated across different search syndication partners to get you real-time data through APIs, so you don't have to work with 100 different Excel sheets.
So what are the gaps in performance marketing that made you say, hey, you know what? We need to create Swaarm.
The law of technology, this is me talking, says every time you update something, something else is going to break.
What is the one common factor that separates a good marketing strategy from a great one?
You don't need to run something and then wait 6 weeks to figure out if this is successful or not. There are so many tools out there that help you get this real-time analytics that you can actually fail fast and get to a winning strategy that works for you.
Hey, welcome to Mobile Groove. It is the podcast where, yes, we dive into bold conversations with the leading minds in mobile marketing and AI, and as well, talking with companies. But my guest today isn't just leading a company. It's not about leading a company. She's leading a transformation in how we think about marketing analytics, because of course now everything is AI, but that's not enough. It has to be more. So joining me today is my guest, Yogeeta Chainani. She is co-founder, CEO of Swaarm. Coming in, setting down, landing in the groove. Great to have you, first of all.
Thank you so much, Peggy. It's really nice to be here. I know we've been planning this. We wanted to do this for such a long time. It's an honor to be here. I'm looking forward to an interesting chat.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, not just because the tech got you the awards, right? I'm more of a person, I'm into wit and grit, right? That's me describing you, because let's face it, you're a woman with a company, with an idea. Those three, that's hard to combine. Just give me an idea of what you would say allowed you to do this.
I think it's just my background. Like I've always been a person who wants to, research, explore, go into new things and do something that challenges me personally.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the idea came from. I've been working in ad tech for such a long time, but also taking on a challenge and actually looking through it and going through it. I think that's what inspired me to do this.
Mm-hmm. Well, I certainly see it coming through. And I think you have actually 2 awards from our friends at the App Promotion Summit. Another one is coming up. Who knows? It might be lucky 3. But that's me describing you, right? So let's talk about Swaarm. First of all, when I saw the company first, I was like, this is very cool, because I'm into crowdsourcing and I'm into things where, the sum of the parts is more than the number of parts. Yeah. So if you had to describe Swaarm as a person, because it is your company, so you've shaped it, it's got to have your mark on it. How would you describe it personally?
It's a very interesting question. Of course, I could say it's just me, but I think when I think of Swarm, I think of James Bond meeting Nikola Tesla, right? Think about James Bond. Like he's a very bold personality, very smooth, very ahead of his game, right? And that's what we do as a marketing tool as well, right? Like we want to be ahead of of the market. We are always 2 steps ahead, looking at what the future holds, providing people with the tools that they need. It's like James Bond having the right gadget at the right time,
I love it.
Laser watches and the fancy guns and so on.
Okay.
Similar to that, right? Like we have the right tools for the right people and on the right time. And then we have Tesla, right? Think about Tesla, a visionary, intelligent, genius mind building tech, not just for himself, but for the world, right? He wants to revolutionize industries and empower people. And that's what we're trying to do with Swarm as well. We're trying to empower all the companies, no matter the size, the budget. You come from any background, you should be able to use a marketing tool to your advantage, right? So it's like, to sum it up, I would say it's like bold like Bond, James Bond, brilliant like Tesla. And for us, the mission is very clear. Like we want to change the game for marketers everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I saw coming through. And that's why I actually gravitated to you, because marketers of all sizes, I think that's key here, right? And redefining how campaigns are measured and optimized, because that's what they need to be doing. We all need to be thinking differently about how we are building campaigns from the ground up. And you're setting some benchmarks here, because you're focused very much in privacy. That's what you're doing. You're setting those benchmarks. And innovation always starts with a problem. You're innovating around a problem. So obviously, you saw something that was missing. So what are the gaps? What are the gaps in performance marketing that had made you say, hey, you know what? We need to create Swaarm.
Okay. Let me answer that by first showing you a quick graphic. Okay.
Okay.
So just think about advertising a few decades ago, right? Let's talk about 30 to 40 years ago. What was advertising? Advertising was if you had like a TV spot, right? A commercial on a billboard somewhere, maybe on a bus stop or railway station. That was marketing 40 years ago. Then came along, let's go forward 20 years. If you were the cool kid on the block, you were doing Facebook and Google, right? That was marketing then. And now, if you think about the ecosystem now, just that so many channels out there, you have Facebook, Instagram, Google, TikTok, Snapchat. And while we are talking, I think in the podcast time, there'll be two more on the market at this point,
Oh,
right?
yeah. I just came back from a show where it was like more channels. Yeah. And interest, unbelievable interest in CTV. So there you go. Another one.
TV, exactly. That's like the new edition now. So now you have to be on smart TV to be the cool kid on the block.
Yes.
Right? That's the thing. So there are so many channels, and you have to do marketing on all of them because the attention span of users is like very small nowadays. Earlier, sure, people spent a lot of time on Facebook. Now they spend probably like 30 seconds on Facebook and then 30 seconds on TikTok, another, I don't know, 5 minutes on Snapchat, depending on what platforms you admire and stuff, right? And then for you as an advertiser to gain attention of the user, you need to you need to advertise everywhere, and that means that many products you need to have to manage this,
Yes.
right? And that was one of the things that's something that we identified, that it gets more and more complex in terms of managing. Your data is in silos, it's in across different platform, and you just need to work with something that's across different platforms, and that's very challenging because if you don't have a unified view of what you are doing, it's very hard to manage or optimize and to grow your campaigns or to grow your marketing in a meaningful way. And I think this is one of the things that we identified, right? And that was something that was important for us. And then there was, of course, when you have different products, they are expensive, right? It's not always cheap. These products out there, they're expensive. They're also inaccessible. When I say inaccessible, meaning you need to have, I don't know, there are technical barriers. You need to have a team of engineers figuring this out for you. And for smaller and boutique agencies, this is not an option. Like they don't have the finances or the resources at the beginning to throw money at the problem. Same thing with pre-privacy systems, right? There are a lot of the products that are out there in the market that were built in the pre-privacy era. So they are difficult to tackle, and hence compliance looks like a big challenge for a lot of people, right? And looking at all this, for us, we were very focused on what we wanted to do. We wanted to do a unified platform, a single scalable platform, combining automation that helps you scale easily with affordability, and it has privacy by design principles built into it, baked into it.
Let's step back a bit because that is what we need.
Yeah.
But there are standout features about Swarm that I really want to understand. And full disclosure, I did at one point also do some judging for the awards. So I did get to see some of the things that you put sort of under the hood, as it were, right? And one thing that stood out for me was, the no code sort of codeless event tracking. As I understand it, and stop me if I'm wrong, but
Mhm.
that allows me to have that uniform vision, that uniform view into everything, because the event is adapting to the platform, and it can adapt to the platform because it's no code or low code or minimum code.
Mhm.
That part of it here.
Yes, I mean, of course, that is also a part of it. So, for example, when I say unified, of course, one is across different channels. But let's say when you're advertising a product, right? And let's take an example of a gaming product. Like I have a game today, and I want to start tracking when my user reaches level 5, because it's an important KPI. Because I have noticed that every time a user is above level 5, they tend to stay in the game, right?
Mhm.
Let's say this is a very simple example.
Right.
Now, let's say I don't have it tracked right now, and in a pre-codeless tracking world, let's put it this way, What I would do is, I, as a marketer, would go to the development team, say, hey, this is important for me. I need to start tracking level 5 for users when they reach level 5, so that
Right.
I can optimize my campaigns accordingly. I know where I can spend my budget, where the users are coming from, which are actually reaching level 5, right? Now, of course, in a company, when developers have their own roadmap, they'll try to squeeze you in at some point. So they'll say,
Yeah.
okay, fine, we'll do it. Let's say it takes a week or two. They need to update the SDK. They need to resubmit the app to the app stores, right? And then the app stores take their time to review it, and then the users need to download the new version of the app. If you're lucky, there are good users, they download it immediately. If not, they're like me and they are forced to download it when the previous version is not available, right?
Yeah.
So you wait. This process can take anywhere between a couple weeks to a few months.
And maybe by then the event isn't even interesting anymore, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then when it takes a few months and you're like, okay, now I wanted to optimize my campaigns. I've waited 4 months. I've already lost so much budget into it. I can't stop the campaign. I'm just running it blind because I don't know if my users are reaching this KPI. So what we did with codeless event tracking is, basically, you as a marketer can just go into the dashboard. You can see all your app pages, and you can just say, hey, this is the page at level 5. I want to track my event. And that's it. You
And that,
hit save and you're done. You don't need to change the SDK. You don't need to submit the app. It immediately takes effect on all the users who have your version of the app running, the version that you're running. That's it. You start
mhm.
getting this data real time, and you can start optimizing. So it increases agility a lot, like in terms of it empowers you to adjust your campaigns, facilitate faster integrations and iterations for your testing. So it gives you a lot of agility. And then on the other hand, gives you independence. Like, I don't know of a marketer who would say, I don't want independence when I'm doing things, right? So
Yeah.
it gives you a lot of independence. You don't have to rely on your technical teams to do these small things that are important for you in terms of your marketing journey.
So I just want to also be clear about one thing, Yogeeta. Do I need to then, if I've been doing things the other way,
Mhm.
I've been doing it, the way of waiting, being not empowered, being pretty slow, um, hoping that my MMP is tracking what I need to track and understand it and bringing all that back. Do I replace that or do I enhance that?
You can do both.
Okay.
You can replace it, you can enhance it.
Okay.
It's up to your strategy as a company, how you want to tackle this, but you can do both.
You can do both. Okay, that's important because I was looking at that and I thought, okay, because no code, low code, I mean, that is just joy. And we're hearing that so much more about that at all levels because then you don't have to be a developer and
Yeah.
you can spend your developer time on what really matters. What's the significance of what you've been doing more recently? Because you have also been integrating with some search syndication providers.
Yeah.
How does that fit together?
So with search syndication, it's like, let's take back, what is search syndication, right? Like,
Mhm.
when you as a company are relying on agencies to get traction on your search campaigns, right?
Right,
When you do that, that's where you rely on agencies to bring users to your search campaigns who actually are clicking on your products, on your apps, right?
right.
And normally this part of the ecosystem, the marketing ecosystem, it's a black box,
Mm,
because you don't know what's working. There's no real time reporting. There is actually, the real time reporting that you have is like 48 hours delayed,
true.
right? So you don't know how to optimize things, and that's the main problem in this industry. So what we did is, we integrated across different search syndication partners to get you real time data through API, so you don't have to work with 100 different Excel sheets where your data from different partners is in different Excel sheets. What are you going to do? Like, it's very hard to make decisions when you don't have that data in front of your eyes, right? And that's what we tried to do with that. We tried to get everything in one unified platform in a privacy compliant manner. That means you don't have to worry about, okay, if my user is going to say we are tracking them. We're not tracking them, right? It's privacy compliant. We are putting things into aggregates that make sense, right? And that's how we're helping these agencies optimize.
I'm just curious, are you having more traction with developers and studios, gaming, non-gaming, app owners, or is it more the agencies? Because again, I could see this being something that an agency would also say, this helps us serve our customers better.
I think that's the thing. That's the idea of Swarm, right? You can be anybody in the ecosystem, and you will still find a use case that actually fits your purpose, right? And that's the big idea of Swarm. Like my vision with Swarm is like you need to have, like we have a suite of products, and depending on your use cases you can just go to it and say, okay, I'm going to use this product because this matches my use case. So you can be a developer, you can be an app, gaming, non-gaming app, you can be a web marketer, you can be an e-commerce platform, you can be an agency, you can be anyone in the chain and still have a use case that Swarm will fit.
Well, that's a great segue, actually, almost as if I wished for it, because that's just it. We need to understand how we can use the toolbox, right? So there are ways to look at, there are playbooks to look at. I'd rather look at real life examples. And, it'd be interesting to therefore walk through some of them. But
Mhm.
as you walk through them, I sort of want you, and this is actually good for you later, Yogeeta, because then you'll have a playbook as a result of this exercise. So I know you came with some examples, but I'd like to switch it up a little bit, that we don't just walk through the examples, but we also try to build a playbook. Um, yeah, on the fly. So why don't you start with some examples? Because I know that you've done quite a few. I've been looking at these. And yeah, they are some of the increases are just off the charts. Let's just put it that way. So I want to understand how and why that all happened.
Yeah.
Why don't you kick it off?
So let's start. I think I'll start. There are many more, but I've chosen a few that actually show you the width of the use cases that you can have. So basically, I want to show the width of what you can do with Swarm, like we just spoke about, like who
Yeah.
as a company can use it. So that's what I want to show as a width, who all can use the platform, what are the use cases they use it with. So let's talk about the first one, like ads and more, right? They are basically an agency, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're an agency. They started off in 2021. They were pretty small when they started, and their main use case was to actually compete in this market with the limited resources that they had, right? And this is actually a very like a story that a lot of marketers, a lot of agencies will tell you, right? Like
Yes.
we're small, we have limited resources, what can we do, right? And I think this is where they came to Swarm, and with them we kind of achieved like 1,000% revenue increase in just 3 months. Now, how do you do that?
Massive.
You need,
Yeah.
with a small team with limited resources, you need a lot of automation into it. Like if you, they could basically automate their all daily tasks, the repetitive tasks that their teams needed to do completely end to end with the platform, so that they were free to actually focus on strategic initiatives or doing business development, which is something that a product cannot do for you yet. We're
Mm-hmm.
getting there with the AI agents, but
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is something that they could focus on then, and that gave them that scale. They could increase their revenues very quickly. They had real time reporting. They could optimize their campaigns. Even most of the campaigns were being optimized automatically based on the KPIs that were set in the campaigns, and that actually gave them a lot of scale, which
Mm-hmm.
helped them achieve this 1,000% revenue increase in 3 months.
So again, they could set the campaigns, their KPIs, they could set that on the fly. We're not worried about any time lost. And
No,
then real-time analytics, allowing them to adjust as
exactly,
needed.
exactly, right? Then let's talk about a different kind of a company and talk about Battle Legion. It's a game,
Mhm.
a very popular
Right.
game. If you Google them, it's a very popular game. And their challenge was like every time their team was updating the SDK, like for marketing purposes, of course, for gaming purposes, they need to update the game code, but for marketing purposes, they needed to update the SDK. And every time they had that, this was a lost time into, like as I just mentioned, right? It can take anywhere from a couple of weeks to a few months until you actually get the desired results, right? So that was their main challenge. So we implemented codeless event tracking with them.
Mhm.
The marketing team could not have been happier. They were so agile in terms of moving forward. They quadrupled their A/B testing so quickly because they were doing so many tests with their campaigns, with their also within the game they could do that very quickly. So they were doing a lot of A/B testing. They quadrupled it. They got a 66% organic installs increase in organic installs. Now,
Mhm.
how does that happen? Is basically like, when you update your code base in the app, you give it to review. The law of technology, this is me talking, says every time you update something, something else is going to break in the
Good.
code, right?
Yeah.
Every time we talk to a developer, it's meant to happen. So,
Yes.
and with codeless, because you did not have to update the app, the number of crashes were lower. Things were not breaking as often. You had a very stable version running. And when
Mhm.
you have that, the stores reward you. When you have a very stable version, you don't have very less crashes, your visibility in the stores goes up, right? And
Yes,
that's
because
how
stores are also, to your point, Yogeeta, very importantly, they're also looking at the performance of the app
exactly,
increasingly. So that
exactly.
impacts your ratings.
Yes,
Absolutely.
exactly. And that's why they get more visibility. So they got an uptick of 66% on their organic installs, which
Okay.
was something like they could not have imagined by just changing this one tiny thing that you don't have to update the SDK for every event you want to track. It can get you so much results. Well, their main goal was to just get faster with their A/B testing, but they on the side they got a 66% increase in organic installs. Nobody complains about that, of course.
This is fascinating to me for a reason because I just again got back from a show where the discussion shifted. We've been in an AI state now for,
Hmm.
well, for 2 years, but very intensely the last year, where it's not like, oh, will I use AI? It's like, how do I use AI? And it
Right.
was very interesting. It was a gaming show, Games Forum Barcelona. But what came across was now that we can produce and be creative,
Hmm.
now we have the biggest testing backlog we have ever seen.
Correct.
You can produce massive numbers of creatives, but how are you going to test them? So
Yeah.
when we first met, this wasn't top of mind with me, but now I'm looking at it and saying that the testing part of this is probably, I can't make a guess, but it may be the real true attraction of
Yeah.
what you're doing.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's the thing.
Not the
You can
ROAS,
do
the speed.
testing, right? Let's
Yeah.
say you have so many use cases to test, right? Like, and you're testing different things, like actions that users take in your product, right? With the
Mhm.
test, like, I don't know, if I'm an e-commerce platform and I'm showing a creative for jeans. I want to know if people are actually just clicking on that ad and actually buying just jeans, or they are buying something else as well, right? This
Yeah.
is what you want to know. And when you have so many different events to track, you also need to update your product accordingly, or update your app accordingly, right? And that's what's important. And if you get the flexibility to do this as a marketer and not having to rely on somebody else for you to do it, the
Mhm.
possibilities are endless.
Yeah, I like this. Um, so it's really about the codeless event tracking is what I'm
Yeah,
understanding. I mean, that is what creates this flexibility, this agility. But,
yeah,
when we first met, when you got your first award, it was really about ROAS. So let's switch back maybe to an example that
yeah,
just shows that, that was the return on ad spend. That was the big deal. Now, as I said, it's going to be more about testing and agility, but let's look at sort of the traditional use case.
yeah. So we have an example for that, like Pocket. It's an in-app user platform. They have around 100 million unique users. They belong to the AnyMind group. It's a publicly listed company. And they, for example, their challenge was they had so much limitation in terms of their reporting. And they first, it was not real time. Two, it was not granular enough for them to take any action. So they did not have any actionable data to what to do with the users, what kind of ads to show them, so on. And that's where we came in. We integrated into their in-app platform. And now they have access to real-time data. They can target, like they can have special target groups for different segments of traffic, so that they can optimize their payouts, for example, for a high value, let's say high value traffic segment. They can give out higher payouts and optimize their campaigns accordingly. This just helped them increase their ROAS. In the first 3 months, they were up 200%. It seems quite small. Like, what can real time analytics do for me? I get the analytics 2 days later, right? Anyways, but you don't imagine the impact it can have if you actually are able to take that action right at the moment when you get this data in, versus waiting 48 hours and you're already spending your money on the campaign and waiting for the results and trying to do something in 48 hours.
Well, that's part of it. It's part of that learning. That's why I don't know if you thought of it that way, but when I think of Swarm, I'm always fascinated by immersive and immersion intelligence, right? And that's what you have in a hive,
Yeah.
right? Things change because the bees are communicating with others in the swarm, and they can adjust and
Correct.
adapt. And I think of that here because I'm getting information in real time that allows me to make the most of it and to, to basically use that granular data to adjust the campaigns and understand also, I guess, the reporting. You can be more you can understand the payout, the
Mhm.
payback period. You can forecast better is what I want to say.
Exactly, exactly. You
Yeah.
know what you're optimizing towards, you know with whether the actions that you take will lead to this result or not.
Hmm.
You know that much in advance rather than having to spend a few days running a campaign, taking the reports in an Excel sheet, trying to do some pivot tables on it, and then figuring out, okay, this is what makes sense at the end of the day, which is already too late.
So let's wrap it up with a final one,
Yes.
because I thought this was sort of interesting, an example to take us out into the future, because it's about being really an assistant in the process.
Yeah, exactly. So as I said, like, I mean, you asked me this question, like if it's a replacement or if it's an addition. Now, it can be a replacement. As I said, it can be both. So when you're trying to replace, this is what ClearPeer did. Like ClearPeer is a performance marketing marketplace out of Canada, and
Mhm.
they have multiple products that they were using in their ecosystem, right? They had their own DSP, they have some other platforms. They were using multiple platforms. So the same challenge of fragmented data across different platforms. So they decided to migrate everything. But with migration, I think the key in this industry, when you talk about moving or migrating, even though despite the fact that companies are, let's say, have inefficiencies, they face challenges with their data being across different platforms, the word migration scares them.
Oh
Why?
yeah.
Right? It scares them. The simplest reason is they think they're going to lose business ops, like they're going to have loss of business because they're going to migrate,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And let's say, yes, there is a possibility of losing data, right, when you are migrating.
Hmm.
But this is what we did when we started Swarm. The first add-on to the product we built was a migration assistant, because of course it is a valid concern that people have. But when you have a system that can help you with it, this
Hmm.
should not be a concern, right? When we build something, so it's not like we just migrate surface level data, we migrate
The
everything.
whole chunk of it.
Everything. So you have your data, your campaigns, your partners that you're working with, their payouts, their budgets, every single actionable data that you look at to take actions every day, historical, current, everything. We just move everything for you. And exactly, when we move everything, when you go onto the new platform, it feels like seamless work, because it would just feel to you that I was working on this system for so many years. I have everything in the platform. All I need to do is just get used to the new platform. That's it. Right. And this is what we did with ClearPeer, right? We migrated everything, and they had zero downtime
Hmm.
when we did that. So we were running their systems in parallel until everything was migrated. So they have zero downtime when
Right.
they also decreased their cost by almost 50%.
And was that again due to the no code, low code that you can sort of like plug into a customer and say, you're coming to us, so we're going to plug in all the right ways and bring it over?
Yeah, of course. A migration assistant is like that, right? Like, for
Yeah.
example, I don't know, when you're migrating phones, for example, right? Like with iPhone, right? If you get a newer
Yeah,
version,
it's not always easy. I did iOS to Android and then went back, and it was, yeah, it wasn't made to be that way. That's why I asked the question, it's not just that you migrate, but I think again, it's that no code
or
approach. Is that
of
what makes
course,
it so?
when it comes to migration, there is some code involved, not for the client, for us as a company, of course,
Okay.
but for a client, it's the same thing, the same experience as the dashboard. They have everything, they have four buttons to click, and they're done.
Okay.
So they don't have to do anything. For them, it's codeless.
Got it. Okay. I can see
Right?
that.
And of course, Clearpeer took advantage of this, like basically with the migration assistant that we had, and they got a cost benefit as well by combining everything into one platform. That was a huge cost benefit. That's win-win.
I'm impressed. I'm thinking we should have that for some of our consumer electronics,
Yes.
having gone through that a couple of times. So,
I feel like I think that's the best example to say, right? Like when you're moving your platforms, like if you go from iOS
oh
to
yeah,
Android, or even changing your phone, right? For
yeah,
me, like when I was changing my phone, there are still some apps that you cannot readily move, like your banking apps and stuff. You need to have some sort of two-factor authentication, some sort of communication with your banks and stuff. Took me 3.5 years to migrate the banking apps, and now I'm already thinking of switching the phone.
switching that around. Oh boy, yeah, we need better solutions for us as people. But you did walk through the solutions that you had, the case studies with your customers, which leaves for me one big question. What is the one common factor that separates a good marketing strategy from a great one? Because you have seen these, you've enabled them, and you've also improved upon them.
Yeah. If you ask me, like, right, because having looked at so many case studies, having worked with so many clients one on one, I would say the key things, the crucial thing to be successful with for a good marketing strategy is one, use all the channels that are available to you because well, people rely on some channels and they're like, okay, this is working. Why do I need to try other channels? I would say no, try every channel. I know maybe some of them are not fit for you, but you wouldn't know that until you try them,
Until you try it, yes.
right?
Yes.
Try all the channels available to you, but not just try. When I say try, doesn't mean that I have 10K as a budget, I split it across the channels and that's it. You need to try them, meaning you need to make sure you can measure them as well.
Mm,
It's key. Like you should have actionable insights from your measurement. You should
yes.
know that you can take actions to change and optimize those campaigns. Otherwise, of course, it's just money wasted at the end of the day, right? So you should be able to measure them, take actions, and then take advantages of the tools that are available in the market, I would say. I
Hmm.
mean, choose the right partners for you. It may be that the current one that you're using doesn't have everything that you need. Just try to look around in the market. There are so many products out there right now. You will find something that fits your use case.
Mm.
So look around, take advantage of the tools that are available in the market. So this would be, for me, these are the three things. If you do this, your marketing strategy is going to be a success.
And that aligns with the big trend of 2025 and beyond, which is diversification,
Correct.
right? All the different ways you can distribute, all the ways you can be measuring. And again, I have to say, I've seen that as well evolving that I guess it's because we're a mature market, the more
Yeah.
you see the gaps,
Yeah.
there are going to be companies such as yours that come up and say, look, this is the way we were doing it, but it's not adapting to where we are.
Mhm.
And as I look ahead to 2025, and I'm also asking you because you're in the market, it's not about relying on one channel or getting stuck in what they call analysis paralysis, right? You
Yeah.
have to move. But you also don't want to just move
Mhm.
because you're moving, right?
Yeah,
Momentum
exactly.
and success are two different things. What are
Exactly.
the biggest pitfalls to avoid in 2025? Because it's going to be a rush on channels and more
Mhm.
better. But yes, you still have to have a balance.
You still have to have a balance. That's correct. As I said, like, of course, but I still stand by it, like, try the channels, right? For me, I think diversification is key because take
Mm,
a very recent example in the US, right? They briefly shut down TikTok, which was
yeah.
good. It was briefly done. But if you as a company were just relying on TikTok as your only channel, that would have a huge impact on your business, right?
Yes.
And let's say you say, okay, when TikTok shuts down, I will start Facebook. But it's not like this. You can't switch over
Yeah.
because when you go and start Facebook, the algorithm needs to learn. It needs to know what kind of users you're targeting, what's going to work for you, and that takes days,
Mm,
if not weeks,
yes.
right? And this is where diversify. Don't just rely on one channel.
Hmm.
And again, when I say rely on other channels as well, measure them, not just rely on them by spending money on them, measure them. So take actions, make sure you have data. So don't fall into the thing was delayed action. You need to make sure that you have data to take real time action.
Hmm.
Don't ignore privacy, user privacy. I think that's key. I know like privacy now, people still talk of it as a new concept, which is not. Like it's been few years now that we are into this. I think this is key where you build trust with your customer. And that's important for your product to be a success, right? Just marketing, no, you also need to make sure that your users are happy, right? And they have the trust that they need to have with the product. So make sure that you're using platforms that are privacy compliant, you're protecting your users' data correctly, and you're adapting. So as you said, like Peggy, yes, we are in a mature market, but we are, I think, very fortunate enough to be in a market that also evolving every single day.
Oh yeah.
So it's a mature market, it's evolving every single day. And I think that's what makes it fun, right? Take advantage of that. Try and they should adapt to the evolving market, because whenever there are things that are changing, there are always opportunities that you can tap into. And I think that's one thing. So you should not neglect adaptability or say, like, okay, this is what I do and this is all I'm going to keep doing. Because if the market evolves, you need to adapt to it.
I like the positivity as well. It is evolving and evolution creates opportunity. I always believe in that. I'm one of those people like, oh, there was a disaster, there was a fire. I'm like, yes, yes, but
Yes,
in the forest, there are going to be new trees and new plants are going to grow out of that. Or when there's a volcanic eruption, I know, I understand that, but I'm just saying that like in the scheme of nature, that
yes.
is going to be the best, most fertile land left as a result. So gotta look at it that way.
Yeah.
The
I'm
other
thinking
thing,
it's a little bit similar to, like, I know when there's a saying, right? Fail fast, right?
yeah,
A lot of people take it in a negative way, but then you have, like, so when you're trying your marketing strategies, you have n number of things you want to try. But if you don't try and fail, you wouldn't know what's going to work for you,
exactly.
right? So try them, fail. It's all right to fail at it and fail fast, because that's why you need to have real time data. You don't need to run something and then wait 6 weeks to figure out if this is successful or not. There are so many tools out there that help you get this real time analytics, that you can actually fail fast and get to a winning strategy that works for you.
That's great because I want to zoom actually back to Swarm because we
Mhm.
started talking about you and we talk about the use cases, but I want to talk also about the future because it's about empowering marketers of all sizes
Yes,
to have access to tools, insights that were once, reserved for the big players. They
yes.
were expensive, they were complex. Now you've got them and they are your customers. So they're going to look to you to continue to simplify a very complex problem, a very
Yes.
complex world. How are you going to keep that momentum in 2025?
I mean, honestly, we're walking like 1,000 miles an hour. We're doing so many things, but I think the key things, or a few of the ideas that I can share and I can tell you about, is one of the things
Okay.
that we're doing is the Swarm Marketplace. It's like a marketplace, the dynamic hub for transforming how you establish relations. Like, it's going to help you grow your business, connect with different partners out there, connect with different tools that are out there. So it's
Hmm.
going to help you get a view of the entire market in a single place, right? So that's what we're working on. Then
Wow. That's no lack of ambition here, Yogeeta. I like that.
you know me,
I
so
do. I do. I do
and
see
then
it.
the second thing is we're doing something called as a lead gen product. Now, lead
Hmm.
gen is, now when you talk about advertisers, right? Normally they separate their CRM from their tracking platforms, right? Like our partner marketing platforms. What we're trying to do is combine the two into one,
Hmm.
so that you can actually know which leads that you got from which partners, and you have them in one place, so you can actually do your ROAS calculation, which is a little bit, let's say, untraditional in the current market. Like, you have your CRM that is separate, you have your partner marketing tools that are separate, right? We're trying to bring them together. And then, of course, AI. I mean, as I said, take advantage of the evolving environment. We're doing that as well. Doing a lot of AI add-ons to the platform in terms of capabilities of optimizations, of course, which we've also done in the past. We are trying to build on that. Also doing automatic landing page creations that can help you test, fail fast, try new things, right? So these are a few things, and there are many more, but I'll spare you the details.
So how are you going to end up defining swarm? Because when I first looked at it, it was like, yes, it's about, making everything measurable. And I was like, okay, so you play in sort of like an MMP-ish place. And now you're actually playing in like automation AI. And then you tell me about something really cool, lead gen to partner.
Mhm.
That's going to be very important because, of course, everything matters, and you want to you want to go deeper into those relationships, and
Yes.
that will be important. So, how would you describe Swarm?
It's simple. I usually, whenever people ask me this, I say a simple story. Like for me, it's very simple. It's think of Microsoft Office.
Okay.
Right? When you want to write a text, you use Microsoft Word. When you want to work with numbers, you use Excel. When you want to do a presentation, you go to PowerPoint.
Right.
Similarly, in the marketing ecosystem, whatever use case you might have, you will find a tool that fits your use case in the marketing suite that Swarm is going to offer or Swarm is offering right now as well. A simple, I know it looks very simple. Of course, there are too many products that we have built, we are still building, we'll continue to build, but this is where Swarm's vision lies.
Well, I'm a huge fan of business strategy and many, many, many articles in HBR
Yeah.
saying that the platform play is the one. It is proven, it is the way. And that's what you're building. But you're not only building that, I was also reading your mission is to build a marketing ecosystem for everyone.
Exactly.
I like that because I am also about everyone. We should all have our access and our chance, and
Yes.
then we rise or fall based on our abilities and our merit. So
Exactly.
that's that is what I want to see. It's a great way to look at it. I'd like you to sum up yourself, your journey as an entrepreneur, perhaps in 4 words as well, or 4 words of advice for us. What would they be?
I think if I had to, like, my journey is pretty simple. As you said, like Swarm has a lot of me in it, and it's the
Yes,
other way around. Like I have a lot of Swarm in my system as well, right? So if I had to say, for me, the 4 words that would like define me would be one, innovate. Definitely, like this is, I like to challenge myself. I like to actually go head first into the problems myself to try and innovate and come up with solutions. And then again, one thing that I think I have learned from you as well, like we had this conversation, I think, I don't remember, a few months ago at some point where we met and we spoke about this, that not all complex problems should have a complex solution.
true.
Most of the complex problems have a simple solution. So that is key. Simplify.
Hmm.
Just need to zoom out, get a new perspective, and you'll be able to simplify things.
Yes,
So innovate, simplify, empower. That's what we're doing with Swarm, and that's what I do always. Also, throughout my career, I have done that. Empower people to do things, to take actions, and then lead by example, I would say.
I like that. I'm actually touched that impacted your thinking because I heard that to give him credit. So that was actually Rory Sutherland over at Ogilvy. He is just fantastic personality. If you're not looking at his videos or following him on LinkedIn, I suggest that. And that was his TED Talk. And it was just about this whole revelation of, you think that when you have a big problem, you have to throw a big budget at it. And he was showing in multiple examples that no, actually, you can do something a small, not even just a tweak, but just a different way of framing it,
Yes.
a very pragmatic way of approaching it, and you can fix it for less money than the size of the problem.
Correct.
Um,
Yeah,
so
and that's the thing. Like, I think it's just about zooming out a little bit because when you
yeah,
are in the problem itself, the only thing you can think of is complex solutions. You kind of need to zoom out a little bit, get a new perspective on the problem, I think, and I'm sure you'll find a much simpler answer to your questions.
excellent. And speaking of questions, you have answered all of mine. It has been more than I expected. We have examples, we have a playbook. And for our listeners, they're probably saying, yes, I want to simplify marketing. I want actionable insights. I want to future proof my strategy. Of course, yes, they can check you out on LinkedIn, but where can they go for the insights, for the nuggets?
I would say talk to us. Of course, go
Okay.
to boom.com. There's a lot of content out there on the website as well. Talk to us. We are very approachable, ready to talk to you, ready to talk about your use cases. So yeah, just reach out to us.
And I want to reach out to you again, Yogeeta, actually. I am very excited to see some more of these. Was one of those case studies, by the way, one of the ones that you got the award for? Was that mixed in there?
The award was for the product itself because we never did it with a client. We just did it as a product itself. So the both
Okay.
awards have been only for the product, but maybe next time with a client.
Absolutely. Well, you have enough good examples. And thanks so much for sharing, Yogeeta. It has been a delight and hope to connect again.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being here, and I really liked our chat.
Yes, it wasn't work, was it?
No, not at
Just
all.
talking, just talking. That's what it's about. That's what we do here. We have bold conversations, as I said, with the brightest minds in marketing and AI. And we certainly didn't overpromise with you, Yogeeta. Thanks again.
Thank you.
And of course, if you're tuning into In the Groove on YouTube, well, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. It will allow you to stay up to date with the series. And not only that, enjoy the pure gold of knowledge and insights our guests bring to every episode.